Hello, everybody. Oh, wait for it. It's going to do that funky thing. Okay, I think we're ready to rumble. Hey, guys, happy Monday. I hope you're having an amazing time. I'm all about the stars and the moon, and it's an exciting time of the year. I don't know if you guys care, but are this is a perfect opportunity to shed some of our former beliefs. So if you have a couple of former beliefs that you're ready to let go of, I would advise it's the middle of the year. It is the middle of the year. Take inventory of what no longer serves you that you're ready to let go. And then really think about that and give yourself a chance to start the second half of this year with a new perspective. Okay? That's the first thing I want to say. This week, we are talking about micro wins and why they matter and why really they change everything. I believe they change everything. And I mean everything: your health, your relationships, your career, your confidence, your ability to trust yourself. So, we're going to talk about micro wins. Okay? I think one of the greatest things that we can do, well, this I think that one of the things that we do as humans is we dramatically underestimate the power of small things. We celebrate the 50-pound weight loss or the marathon or the promotion or the marriage or the big breakthrough, but we don't often see that none of those things happen all at once. When you're watching somebody else, we talk about comparison being the thief of joy, and you see people accomplish these things, right? And you think, oh, I want that so bad. I want that. And you don't see the B-roll. You don't see the background. You don't see every little win, every little moment, every little choice that goes into that. Wins, big wins, are built on hundreds, sometimes thousands of tiny moments where someone simply chose to show up, right? A glass of water, a 10-minute walk, getting out of bed, sending the email, taking a big deep breath instead of spiraling, going to bed 30 minutes early, choosing to start over again. Those moments, they don't look impressive, especially when you're in them. They feel simple. They almost feel silly. They rarely make a dramatic before and after, right? Oh, you drank water? No, there's no after to that. But they are the reason that transformation happens. And I think that many of us are missing these moments because we are so busy looking for these giant leaps, and we completely overlook the power of small steps. I talked to you guys about this with the metaphor of you're trying to take the elevator and you got to take the stairs, right? I want you to think about your own journey for a moment. How many times have you set a goal and immediately created the expectation for yourself that sounded something like, starting Monday, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to meal prep every Sunday. I'm going to drink a gallon of water every single day. I'm going to track perfectly. I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal. I'm going to hit 10,000 steps. And the first few days, or maybe even a week, you do it. But eventually life kind of creeps in. You get busy, you get stressed, you get sick, your kids need you, work gets overwhelming, and you get tired. And suddenly you can't perform at that level anymore. So what happens? Most people do not adjust. Most people quit. Not because they're capable, not because they're lazy, but because there is this huge chasm between what they're expecting of themselves and what they currently have the capacity to do. So listen very closely here. Your capacity is not fixed. It changes daily, seasonally, constantly across your life. There have been seasons in my life where 90-minute workouts felt easy. And there have also been seasons in my life where brushing my teeth felt like a major accomplishment. Both were real. Both were valid. One of the greatest skills that we can learn is the ability to honestly assess, what do I have the capacity for today? Not what do I wish I had the capacity for, or what did I used to have the capacity for, or what will someone on Instagram have the capacity for? What do I have today? What's in my tank? Because success isn't built by demanding more from yourself than you can realistically give. Success is built by consistently meeting yourself where you're at and then taking the next doable step. Inside coaching, I call these micro commitments. Micro commitments are the commitments that they feel almost laughably small, right? They are almost embarrassingly small, but still they require a slight stretch. They're not easy and they're not effortless, but they're doable. So when you're having a really hard time, a micro commitment might be drinking one bottle of water, or 5 minutes of movement, or adding protein to your breakfast, putting on your workout clothes, walk into the mailbox, tracking one meal, going to bed 15 minutes earlier, drinking one extra bottle of water, right? The key there is that the commitment needs to match your actual capacity and capability, not your fantasy, okay? Your actual capacity. And here is where I think so many of us get stuck, myself included. We feel dumb setting goals that small. We think like 5 minutes, that's ridiculous. A walk around the block doesn't even count. One workout this week isn't enough to see progress. Stretching before bed isn't actually exercise because the goal feels too small and then we don't do it. We're embarrassed. We wait until we can do it for real, when we can do it perfectly. And sometimes that means we wait weeks or months or years. I always set the bar too high when I would start, always. And I would be able to show up. And then I wouldn't be able to show up because I just wasn't being realistic about my capacity. And the only thing that changed was I changed what the expectation was. I don't have the capacity to be an Olympian at 340 pounds, but I have the capacity to go for a walk around the block or take my dog outside or make one healthy meal choice. So recently I was on a call with one of you guys who was incredibly frustrated with herself because she knew that she could do this. And for the first time in her life, her nutrition, she was crushing it. She didn't even worry about food. Food was coming easy. But movement had fallen off completely. And she couldn't understand why, right? She's also, I must preface, she is absolutely brilliant and hardworking and works incredibly long hours and is when she's in a great mood, you're in a great mood, okay? But she had been coming home exhausted and crashing. She couldn't move. Like, if she wanted to, she couldn't, in her mind. There was no way. So for the first time in her life, nutrition was working. And she couldn't get her movement in. So she'd done it in the past. She'd been able to go get these workouts and loved these workouts. She'd taken classes, and her movement was easy. Nutrition was where she'd struggled, and now nutrition was coming easy, but movement was where she'd struggled. So why couldn't she do it now? And as we talked, I realized something. Every single time that she had the desire to move, she shut herself down. A 15-minute workout didn't count. A workout at home didn't count. She used to go to the gym, right? A walk didn't count. Body weight movement, no counting. Stretching didn't count. Dancing in the kitchen didn't count. Nothing counted because it wasn't what she used to do. She was struggling. She wasn't struggling with discipline. She was struggling with identity. She couldn't accept that doing less than a previous version of herself wasn't failure. And I do this too, okay? I do this thing as well. I have a version of myself that I feel like clicked, and then I can compare myself to that. I recently, and I used this story with her, because feeling dumb or feeling embarrassed keeps us stuck. And I talked about this on Instagram this week. This really, hear me out, okay? I loved playing pool in college. I played it all the time, and I was pretty good at it. And then I didn't have access to a pool table very often, so I didn't play very much. And after I didn't play very much, I didn't play at all. And then every time that I would see a pool table, I'd think, I want to play, but what if I suck? And I wouldn't play. And it's been years. The other night I was at work, and it was abysmally slow. I work at a bar right now as well. It was abysmally slow. And one of my coworkers came over and said, does anybody want to play around a pool? And my heart was like, yes, of course I do. That sounds so fun. I would love to do that. My brain, however, said no. So did my mouth. I said, no, I don't want to look dumb. And I felt it then. I felt what I was holding myself back from. I didn't want to not be at the capability level I used to be at when I thought I was good. But also, I didn't want to do that in front of somebody. I didn't want to struggle in front of anybody else. Even if I didn't care really what they thought, I cared what I thought. And I was embarrassed. And I didn't want to look dumb. One of my other coworkers did not have that qualm. She was like, yeah, screw it. I suck at pool. And we all kind of drifted over the pool table. And I realized that regardless of whether they were good, I was so jealous that they were doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, they don't have to be good at it. I don't care if they're good at it. I'm not eager to make fun of them or think that they need to be a professional pool player or that they should really work at this. And listen, I have a problem. I take everything seriously. Everything that I enjoy, I need to learn to be so good at it. It's not that I need to be the best at it. I'm never competing with somebody else. I'm competing with myself. I want to get really freaking good at this because I love it. But that can hold me back because I realized I wasn't judging anybody else. I wasn't judging them missing the shots or thinking they looked stupid. I was watching people have fun. So why was I the only person in the room who had to be really good at it before I was allowed to participate? Why do so many of us treat life like a performance instead of like an experience? Why do we believe that if we can't do something exceptionally, we shouldn't get to do it at all? I did play pool. Turns out I'm still pretty good at pool. But I had to remind myself that there were no stakes beyond the ones I was setting for myself. I was expecting that if I did not show up perfectly, I should not get to show up at all. And I was holding myself back from an experience. Same thing is true in the call that we talked about earlier. When you are comparing yourself to a version of yourself that had more capacity, you are holding yourself back from, number one, the experience, the joy of just moving or just getting a healthy meal or just getting some water. But number two, you're also holding yourself back from the building blocks that lead to success. So why, again, do we believe that if we can't do something perfectly or exceptionally or profoundly, that we shouldn't do it at all? And I think for so many of us, we are afraid to look dumb, especially in this group. You're high achievers. You push really hard. You show up for everybody in your life. You're really good at your job. You're a really good parent. All of those things. You don't like to look dumb. You like to look competent, right? We are afraid to look dumb. We are afraid to start over, to be beginners. We are afraid to do the modified workout. We are the person who, we don't want to be the person who is taking the slow walk or the person who's doing 10 minutes instead of an hour. But what if looking dumb is simply what trying looks like? What if that's what growth looks like? Because nobody starts as a finished product. I know you see them all the time online, but nobody starts there. Nobody. Every expert started as a beginner. Every single athlete started with awkward reps. Every healthy person struggled to build habits. Every confident person once felt uncertain. And this is why micro wins matter so much. Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, you're collecting evidence in your brain. Evidence that says, I do what I say I will do. I can trust myself. I can begin again. I am capable. And your brain is always paying attention. You are writing the way that your brain thinks every single day. Research in behavioral psychology shows consistently that success is built through the belief that you are capable of succeeding in the future. Small wins will create momentum, and momentum will create confidence, and confidence will create bigger action. And bigger action will create bigger results, but it all starts with the small wins. I often remind you guys of this. You do not rise to the level of your ambitions. You rise to the level of your self-trust. And self-trust is built in tiny moments, not giant ones, tiny ones, quiet ones, ones that nobody else ever sees. The day where you walk for 10 minutes even though you didn't want to, or you chose to include protein in a meal, or you restarted after you fell off, or you showed up at 10% because that's all you had, especially those days. So here is what I'm going to ask you this week. What season, I want you to think about this. What season are you in right now? Ask yourself, what season am I in? What is my true capacity? Remember, seasons change. This is not permanent. But what season am I in? And what is one micro commitment that feels small enough to succeed at, but meaningful enough to move me forward? And when your brain tells you that it's too small to matter, I want you to remember this, okay? Every single tree starts as a seed, okay? Every marathon is going to start with one small step. Every transformation is going to start with one decision. Small things become big things when they're repeated. And your job isn't to leap across a canyon or teleport to your end goal. Your goal is simply to take the next step again and again and again, because the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to stop saying no every time that your heart asks you to say yes, and to trust that tiny yeses will eventually change your life. When it comes to looking at our relationship with these micro wins and micro commitments, I want you to get really real about where you're at, okay? Not next week, but right now. And I want you to think about each day as an opportunity. Maybe you ask that question in the morning. What does my day look like? Or the night before. What does my day look like? What is my schedule like? How much time am I going to have? What do I need to think about meals? Maybe you aren't going to have an hour and a half. So that means maybe today I can't get to the gym because the gym takes 20 minutes for me to get there. I got to put my clothes on. I got to look like a regular human. Then I got to drive back. I've already lost 40 minutes. That's what your brain is saying, right? It's saying, no, 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 not going to work. What I'm hearing is that if we eliminated that, we've got an opportunity for movement, whether that is you've only got 15 minutes of movement or you've got 50 minutes of movement. You need to take away the barriers from the easiest yes. The things that we want to do in our life and we want to change, we have to take the barriers away from the yeses and put some barriers in place on the nos. So same thing goes for food. Maybe you go to bed tonight and you think, oof, I didn't meal prep. I don't have anything in the kitchen. I'm screwed. You're not. Maybe you have to go through the drive-thru tomorrow. Maybe you have to order food to the office. Okay, that's fair. Maybe I can make a choice that still aligns with my goals. Or I can try to make a healthier choice than I might have in the past. The fact that you have to push a button on your phone does not mean you have to implode. You can choose to pick an option that is more aligned with where you're trying to go and support yourself there. Maybe, and water is one I will never let you off the hook on. Water is easy. You can do water. So if that is the win for the next week, is that you drink your water, we take it. Maybe you're in a place where normally you have the time to do those 10,000 steps, but you don't right now. Your brain is going to say, well, then what's the point of me focusing on steps at all? You don't know how much capacity you have until you start that walk. You don't know how many steps you can get in that day until you try. If you're at work and you're thinking, there's no way I can get 10,000 steps, okay, stand up, start walking, just tootle around the office. See how many steps you can get. Because I bet you, when you think about it, when you really look at what your capacity is, if you were just saying yes instead of saying no because you feel silly or you don't think you're going to reach it, I bet you'd be a lot closer than you think you are. Same thing with a workout. If you would just say yes instead of saying no because you're embarrassed that you can't go lift weights in the gym, or you don't think that stretching or doing a little dancing in your kitchen adds up, you might be 20 or 30 minutes into movement, but you're not going to say yes because you're embarrassed. You don't want to look dumb. You don't think it counts. Once you start, it counts. Once that clock starts, it counts. Whether that's movement, whether that's food, whether it's the same thing with your macros. Oh no, tomorrow's going to suck. I'm not going to get close to my macros. Try. Focus on grabbing, if you've got to eat out 3 times tomorrow, try to have protein at each meal. Prioritize it. Okay? Don't just instinctively order the 4 breakfast burritos from McDonald's, which, trust me, I'm a sucker for those sausage breakfast burritos. I love them. But there are different options. If you guys don't have options, message us. We'll send you some sheets. We'll help you out. But a lot of times you count yourself out before you even start the game because you think you're going to look dumb. Every day is the game. You start the clock over every day. You get to say, I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm going to do as much as I can, as much as my capacity will allow. And then I'm good. That's all I got. That's all I got today. And the clock starts again tomorrow. You can say that. But if you refuse to start until you can do it perfectly, you will feel like you're failing every single day. And you will break that trust that you're building with your brain. Your brain believes you. When you say, that's all I had and I showed up, your brain believes you. And when you say, nothing but perfect is worth it, your brain's going to believe you. When you say, ugh, I used to be so good at this and now I suck at this, your brain's going to believe you. And when you say, wow, that season was a lot more fluid and open, and I'm so proud of myself for showing up in the ways that I can when life gets busy. Guess what? Next time life gets busy, your brain's going to believe you. It's going to trust you. Because you did it. You already did it. You proved to it. You collected that evidence. When you have a really busy day at work and you cannot prioritize great choices, when you opt for that, like, you're just binging on takeout when you get home, Your brain's going to believe you that that's the only option. When you have a really busy day and you can't prioritize your food, but you try, and you don't try, you try to, you try to eat throughout the day so that you know you're not going to be starving at the end and then make a poor decision. If you're trying to eat throughout the day, you got a granola bar and a little protein shake in your bag, and you just try. And then you get to the end of the day and you're not starving. You've supported yourself throughout the day, and you can make a conscious decision, whether that is ordering from the app, or that is pulling something out of your freezer, or that is just eating rolled up turkey and lettuce and making lettuce wraps. Your brain's going to believe you that it's possible. Every time that you do it, even if you don't think it's enough, your brain will believe that you can do it. And that's what changes everything. Okay? So I guess what I'm saying is, if it is so dumb and so easy that you think it's stupid, why the fuck aren't you doing it? If it is so easy, so silly easy, so dumb that it's easy, do it. Get out of your own way. Stop holding yourself back. If it is something that you think, that would take no effort, that wouldn't count, then do it. Just do it. And watch what happens. When you say, no, that's too easy, that wouldn't count, that's stupid, I don't want to do it. If the option is doing nothing, or doing that thing that is so stupid easy, do the stupid easy thing. Do something. Let it add up. Let your brain see that you do something, even if you feel dumb. And then watch it exponentially expand. Not just your relationship with fitness, but your life. Okay, that's all I got for you this week. Love you guys. Bye.